we're going to take a quick look at is the standard flood hazard determination form, just to kind of get an idea of what changes were made on this particular form. Now, as Jack mentioned early on, this form has been released. It actually had a publication date of June 1st, but we did not get it from FEMA until July, I believe it was, yes, July 27th. So it's been released. The expiration date is probably one of the first changes you'll notice. If you take a look at this instruction page that you see on your screen right now, you'll notice that the form expires October 31st of 2018. So we've got a couple of years that we get to deal with this form. So that's the good news. As you know, this form expires quite frequently, and we typically are waiting for the next one to come out. It takes them a while, for whatever reason, to get this one approved and through the process. But we do have this one in place until October 31st of 2018. Now, what FEMA has told us is that there's going to be a phase-in period for this particular form. You may have your determination company already utilizing the form. It's out there and available. If so, that's perfectly acceptable. FEMA has not released any details when it comes to this phase-in period, so we're not exactly sure, what the requirements are of that. So you could be utilizing it today. You may have a determination company that has been in touch with FEMA and understands a little bit better what is involved in the specific requirements of phasing this form in. There's not much change to it, so I can't imagine that a determination company is going to wait to put this form in place. So just kind of keep that in mind. You may want to check with your determination company and see if they have not already implemented it, what their time frame is for getting it implemented, because as we said, you can utilize it and be in compliance. Currently, you could still be utilizing the old form and be in compliance as well. So kind of keep that in mind as we work through these changes. If you take a look over at the form itself, the top section here, which deals with just your basic loan information, I have one item highlighted where we saw a change, and that's in box number 3, the lender ID box. And that's what it used to say. It was simply the lender ID box. Now it refers to the lender servicer ID number. This used to be a required form or a required box on the old form. So what you typically would see in that box was your insurer identification number. So if you are FDIC insured, you would have the FDIC certificate insurance number in that particular box. Now what they've declared for us on this new form, if you take a look back over on the instructions, is this is actually an optional field now. So if you see this field is blank, it's okay as long as the lender's name and address number is completed in the first box, because that is considered sufficient. So keep that in mind. Don't let that box being blank cause you any distress. As long as you have box number 1 completed with your name and address as the lender, you'll be in good shape. So just keep that in mind. It is an optional field. In addition to that, the loan identifier is also still an optional field. That was an optional field on our old form, still an optional field on this current form that was just released. So keep that in mind as well. That is optional as well. Now, when we move down into Section 2 of the form, Section 2 is broken down into 3 categories. You've got the A section at the top. That's specifically talking about the NFIP community jurisdiction, what community the property is located in. Then Section B talks about the NFIP, how the NFIP affects the building or the mobile home. So it's a specific designation for the property, the building or the mobile home. And then Section C specifically talks about the community again. So the major change in Section 2 came with this highlighted box over here, number 3 in Section 2. It asked, is there a letter of map change? Now, many of you may remember in the old form, this was a box that simply said Loma Lomer number, and then that's all it said. So all you had to do was put the number, the case number that was defined on that Loma or Lomer. But when you went over to the instructions in the old form, it still said to check the box yes and enter the date of the LOMA or LOMER. So again, the instructions with the old form did not coincide with the box. So that's been an error for quite a long period of time. The last two forms there were errors in. So we feel like they finally have gotten this particular box together. Now the box simply reads, is there a letter of map change? And you are to select yes or no. Now, when you move over to the instructions, which is on page 2 of the instructions at the top, you'll see that you can actually leave this field blank if you choose to do so. If there is no letter of map change, you can leave this field blank, this particular box. But a letter of map change here includes a LOMA, a letter of map amendment, a LOMER, which is a letter of map revision, or any other type of FEMA map letter that applies to that property. So it's kind of an all-encompassing field now. If we take a look back at the form, you'll notice that, again, you can leave it blank if there is no letter of map change, but you could also select the no box if you choose to do so. If there is a letter of map change, you are to select the yes box, insert the letter of map change, the date, as well as the case number that's provided. So they've kind of taken the last two versions of this particular box and put it all together, and that's what we're seeing on the current form. That is the biggest change in that particular box when it comes to this section. So keep that in mind. If you take a look back at the second page of the instructions, one other minor change they made is they added a sentence in Section C that is referring you to community eligibility. Section C specifically talks about community eligibility as opposed to individual building eligibility for coverage. They also made an additional comment here about coastal barrier resource systems and directed you to a new website, not the FEMA website, but the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services. Most of you all are probably not dealing with that. Now, the last item, as you move on down to the bottom of the form, the only other change that was made is this minor little disclosure they have here used to sit below the comments box. It's now above the comments box. So another minor change there. So that was really all you need to be concerned about. As I mentioned, you may want to check with your determination company if they're not utilizing the form yet to see when they plan to get the form implemented. Other than that, that's all I have on the determination form. Jack, I'll turn it back to you. Thanks, everyone. Have a good weekend.